This is me, July 29th, 2008. It is 12:33 Mountain Time. Covering all my bases, making sure that if something happens to me or my family or all of us, that our assets are documented.
911, what is your emergency?
My son and his wife and their 2 children are not responding to calls, or they're not responding to people pounding on their door, and there's no trucks coming out of their driveway. We're worried that maybe gas has been left on or something like that.
Josh had taken the children on a middle-of-the-night camping trip.
The first thing I saw was Susan's purse was on a table, and I started pulling out things. You know, I found her keys, her wallet, and had her driver's license and her credit card.
When's the last time you seen her?
Probably about midnight of last night.
Where at?
We're finishing up a movie.
And where did you drive to?
Well, I started heading south through Tooele, turned onto the Pony Express.
How far down the Pony Express did you go?
Not very far. Maybe 20 miles, I don't know.
So what did you do once you got there?
Hooked up a heater and had a fire for the boys.
So your mom stayed at the park. Where did she stay at the park? Do you know where?
She stayed at Dinosaur National Park.
Do you know where at the park? No?
No. My mom stayed where a crystal are.
Where what are?
An average, close-knit family with a white picket fence and happy, joy-filled photographs. Well, that's the thing about pictures and social media. It hides all the cracks and the dark crevices, even the ugly truth.
I need you to help me find her. Tell me where I need to look for her. Because you're the closest one to her.
I just can't think of any place that she would be going.
28-year-old Susan Powell seemed to have it all. The lovely home, 2 little boys, and a seemingly loving husband. No one could have predicted the tragedy that followed the happy family in West Valley City, Utah. Susan Cox Powell was reported missing on December 7, 2009, and her husband Josh Powell was named a person of interest in her investigation. He lost custody of little Charles Josh Powell and Braden Timothy Powell to the boys' grandparents. What happened next is absolutely hair-raising. Tragically, after being driven over the edge, Josh was so upset and angry that he ended things in a blaze. Quite literally. Welcome to our channel, where we meticulously analyze tragedies. This is the story of Susan Powell and previously unknown details about her disappearance. A church-going mother goes missing overnight, and her husband tries to claim she had an affair and ran away. This might happen in real life, but this was not the case in the disappearance of Susan Cox Powell. Before we dive into what truly happened to Susan, let's talk about her. Born on October 16, 1981, in Alamogordo, New Mexico, Susan Mary Cox was raised in Puyallup, Washington. For parents Chuck and Judy Cox, Susan was one of 4 daughters. As a typical teenager, she enjoyed riding horses, getting her hair and nails done, and dressing in stylish clothes. Susan pursued cosmetology school, driven by her passion for making others feel good about themselves. During her teenage years, she began to take an interest in boys.
Susan was one of 4 daughters born to Chuck and Judy Cox. She was just, a really typical girl and teenager. She liked to ride horses.
She was doing well in church and school, had friends, she loved choir.
She liked her hair done, her nails done, wear stylish clothes.
At 18, she met Josh, who was in his 20s at the time. They were at a social event for young Mormons, despite not having much dating experience. It was in the year 2000 at a Latter-day Saints church dinner party in his apartment in Tacoma. The two hit it off instantly. Susan didn't know this, but Josh's previous relationship had suffered deeply due to his possessiveness and controlling, overbearing behavior. A partner who is so controlling is always a sign of danger. One must always be wary of such partners, as in most cases, it leads to tragedy. The two tied the knot in April 2001 and went on to have 2 sons. Charles in 2005, and baby Braden in 2007. But Josh wasn't a very loving husband when Susan needed him to be. When she went into labor with Charlie, Josh was too busy to take her to the hospital, and Susan's parents had to take her. While living in Josh's father, Stephen Powell's home in South Hill, Washington, things got dark fast. Susan was subject to inappropriate stalking by her father-in-law. In one of the 2,300 pages spanning 17 spiral notebooks, Stephen Powell wrote that he could hardly control himself when it came to her. He also detailed how he liked to photograph Susan when she wasn't watching. The journals included dozens of photos of Susan, and while some were innocent, many others zeroed in on her legs and feet. He was found to have over 4,500 images of her taken without consent and many videos and voice recordings. Upon confessing his feelings to Susan, which was all recorded on his camcorder mic, he was met with hostility.
That's Susan. There's Josh. I really want her. I've really fallen in love with you.
Josh and Susan had to move away to keep her safe from his advances. But even after moving to Salt Lake City, they had to move states because Stephen wouldn't stop stalking her. Josh still kept in touch with his father despite his behavior towards his wife. This was a little frustrating, and Susan did not appreciate it. Josh, on the other hand, could not cut ties with his father. However, it became unavoidable once Stephen Powell's true monstrosities were uncovered. Police were onto his trail because Stephen Powell was a deeply disturbed man. He was charged later for possession of obscene videos containing children and multiple accounts of voyeurism, which landed him in prison. But this would happen much, much later. After leaving her job as a cosmetologist, Susan became a broker at Wells Fargo. Since Josh was job hopping, Susan wanted to help him with his dream of becoming a real estate agent. She tried to do everything she could by becoming a licensed realtor to answer calls for him. In the beginning, she was dedicated to helping her husband and was the most supportive, loving spouse she could be. She was the ideal wife. The house was always clean, the food was cooked, and she helped him with his career. Regardless of their picture-perfect life, even after having 2 children together, it was clear how unhappy she was. Susan's emails and messages to friends and family brought to light how deeply disturbed her relationship had become. No matter how they appeared to other people, in reality, the couple was not doing okay. Josh had deep narcissistic tendencies. He was extremely controlling and often gaslighted Susan into fights. Her friends reported that she was not allowed to talk to certain people and that he had to decide the types of friends she could have. She had to write all groceries on a spreadsheet and could not overbuy by 2 cents even, otherwise Josh would yell at her. Catherine Everett, Josh's first and only serious girlfriend aside from Susan, shared many similarities in her relationship with Josh to Susan's marriage with him. Both women met Josh at local church events. This was probably intentional, as Josh seemed to be seeking young women from LDS communities who valued traditional marriages and obedience to their husbands. In both relationships, Josh exhibited controlling behavior. He isolated Catherine by discouraging her from having friends and insisted that she only needed him. Similarly, Josh controlled Susan's social interactions. He also managed the finances in both relationships. Catherine recalled that Josh required her to sign over her paycheck to him, which he then deposited into his account. This pattern of control and isolation was a significant aspect of both women's experiences with Josh. He spent too much money on lavish, useless things for himself. Due to his impulsive purchases, he filed for bankruptcy in 2007. Unable to provide for his family and unable to spend as much as before, put a huge strain on their marriage. Josh opened a credit card in his wife's name and generated a debt of over $1,000. You'd think Susan would at least convince him to get help. She just tolerated the abuse for the sake of love and would often help him make home improvement videos. He purchased expensive machinery for the videos, which he hardly ever used. However, things were getting bad no matter how much Susan tried to fix them. On her lawyer's advice, she made a video in July 2008 recording all her assets and damages that Josh had struck during fights. It's a very sad video where you can just tell how disappointed she is that the story has come to that.
This is me. July 29th, 2008. It is 12:33 Mountain Time. Covering all my bases, making sure that if something happens to me or my family or all of us that our assets are documented. Hope everything works out and we're all happy and live happily ever after as much as that's possible.
It's almost eerie that she chose to say, if something happens to me, did she know something was going to happen? She does not smile saying that last part. It's clear that she has lost all hope.
And this is Josh's computer, and there's some type of backup device and speakers. And here's the kind of pimping out stuff he's done to his computer. He built it himself. I think there's like 5 hard drives, something about doing raids. There's those for all the computer geeks. And Josh locked this, but this is all of his files. See, locked. Those are his files.
It is noticeable how Josh has a very expensive computer setup.
And he bought expensive stuff, like these are, I think this was like a couple of $1,000 of, like, it says graphic design templates by Stock Layouts or something like that.
Josh's home improvement videos required a lot of expensive equipment that was now just lying in the basement.
Alright, here's our unfinished basement. We bought 3,000 pounds of wheat, and these are buckets of wheat. See? And there is a shop vac. This is all stuff bought in a year or less through Home Depot on my credit. Josh bought a lot of stuff and then he had to bankrupt it.
She continues to document everything he bought on her card.
I think he's got probably a 3,000 worth of supplies in the RC car world. It's a beauty salon chair. We got Verco chairs. And here is our safe. Bear with me a moment. I'm going to press the code. Okay. So, things are fairly organized. I've got all sorts of files. This is all thanks to me trying to save them.
The safe contained files and some cash, but the real money was in all the useless machinery catching dust.
There's more RC car parts. Yeah, we got that rigid step ladder. There's some fans. Okay, now we're upstairs. Here's another drill. There's another RC car and remote. Here's a laptop. Speakers, 5.1 surround sound. Be quiet, Charlie.
She kept a journal recording their marital disputes. Her final will included tragic statements like, "I want it documented that there is extreme turmoil in our marriage, and if I pass away, it may not be an accident, even if it looks like one." Her husband was often investing in and failing new ventures, and it was draining her emotionally and financially. On December 6, 2009, Susan, Charles, and little Braden attended church services. Josh was on bad terms with the church and never attended any events, while Susan was a devout Christian. In the afternoon, a neighbor, Giovanna Owings, visited Susan, helping her detangle some yarn to crochet Charlie's blanket. If Susan was planning to run away that evening, it wouldn't make sense for her to spend hours detangling the yarn to crochet. This was the last time anyone saw Susan Cox Powell alive. There was a half-decorated tree in a corner, and Susan explained that Josh planned to decorate it later. There were even some presents for the children. Owings knew the couple had tried counseling and failed due to Josh not showing up. However, Susan remarked how cold it was, and Josh covered her gently with a blanket. Owings was impressed by his gesture and loved how he was making dinner while keeping his sons involved. He brought her and Owings' plates to the love seat.
She was crocheting on her blanket. I was working on the yarn. Josh and the boys were in the kitchen cooking. He and the boys ate at the table, and he brought our plates into us in the living rooms. I think that was probably very unusual.
Around 5 o'clock, Susan wanted to take a nap, and Owings assumed she was tired. She stayed till 5:30 p.m., untangling the yarn until Josh got the boys ready to go sledding. She left then.
Shortly after that, Susan began to not feel well. Susan laid down, and Josh sort of suggested to Giovanna that it was time for her to leave.
He was going to take the boys sledding, and he and the boys actually drove out before I had finished putting on my seatbelt. That was the last time I saw anybody. or around 5.
It was a particularly cold night, but after midnight, around 12:30 a.m., Josh Powell said he allegedly took his boys into the minivan and drove them camping at the Simpson Springs campground, 25 miles west of Vernon in the remote west desert of Tooele County. Susan was home alone, asleep. In an old video, Josh asks Charlie where his mother is and then proceeds to answer for him. It sounds almost creepy. The video was taken a year and a half before tragedy befell the Powells. It was when Josh dropped Susan to work.
Charlie, where's Mommy?
Mommy's gone.
She went over there, huh? Say bye-bye, Mommy.
Bye-bye, Mom.
Where's she going?
I'm going to that.
To that building? Is it work? Does Mommy work in that building? Come on.
He's so tired.
There you
Hi, baby.
go. Get Mommy.
All right.
Get down on his level, you know?
I gotta go.
Notice how there is a pond right where the couple is spending Susan's lunch break. Remember this pond. The next morning, December 10th, when the children failed to show up for daycare, their daycare provider called and couldn't reach Josh or Susan. She called Josh's mother and sister, who called the police.
911, what is your emergency? My son and his wife and their 2 children are not responding to calls, or they're not responding to people pounding on their door, and there's no tracks coming out of their driveway. We're worried that maybe gas has been left on or something like that.
Upon breaking into the house, police found it to be empty, save for 2 fans blowing at a wet spot on the couch. The police questioned Josh, and he stuck to his story of a spontaneous camping trip. The only problem was the blizzard warnings and stormy weather.
When's the last time you seen her?
Probably about midnight of last night.
Where at?
We're finishing up a movie.
What movie did you guys watch? And where did you drive to?
Well, I started heading south through Tooele, turned onto the Pony Express.
How far down the Pony Express did you go?
Not very far. Maybe 20 miles, I don't know.
So what did you do once you got there?
Hooked up a heater and had a fire for the boys.
It was obvious he was lying, but police were unable to confirm as there was fresh snow on the ground and they couldn't track where he had been. Who would camp in a blizzard in the middle of the night with 2 small children? He had left voicemails for Susan. The first message on 7th of December 2009 was casual.
Hello, Susan. We are on our way back, and I can't believe that somehow my brain missed the day. I thought today was Sunday. That was really, really stupid. All right, I'll talk to you later. Okay, bye.
2 hours later, he drove all the way to her office. This was highly unusual because it shouldn't have taken him that long. The following day, he returned to talk to the police, and this time he was recorded on video. Frustratingly, he remained tight-lipped about any questions the officer might have.
Okay. Okay. So you don't know if you don't know if you feel like you're under arrest or not?
I feel like you guys are ready I mean, I already told you guys everything I can think of, and I haven't. Oh, and I did think of only one thing. She has another friend that I wasn't even thinking of. It's one of her closest friends, is Kiersey.
Where should we
I
look
think
for
she
her?
would have gone to work.
Okay.
She would have tried to go to work.
Right.
I mean, that's what she would have been in the process of doing.
She didn't go to work. We know that. Right?
Yeah, she didn't go to work.
She didn't go to work.
I guess that's cold.
So that's why I need your help. I need your help to help me. I need you to help me find her. Tell me where I need to look for her. Because you're the closest one to her.
I just can't think of any place that she would be going aside from work, or if she was intending to go to a friend's house or something, she would have.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any voicemails on your phone from her? I'm sure she was probably concerned for you and the boys.
I was making calls this morning and I didn't realize, I guess my phone has been just bugging out, so.
What do you mean?
It just cuts out and
okay.
and dies, you know.
Okay.
When questioned about when he picked her, it took Josh quite some time to process and answer. He seems to be fumbling for an answer or something to fill in the awkward silence. Officers often use this technique so the suspect might spill the beans, so to speak. He was trying to make things up.
Okay. Well, let me explain something to you, Josh, okay?
But I can't even think straight.
Okay. Let me explain something to you. You're not under arrest, okay? If you were under arrest, I would have came to your home, I would have put handcuffs on you, and I would have brought you here, okay? So understand that right now. You're not under arrest for anything, okay? The problem that we have and what we're investigating is what? A missing person, right?
You're right.
And that missing person being your wife. And initially this all turned out to be basically missing people, an entire family. And that's why we were notified, okay?
Okay.
And that's why we were at your home. That's why we broke the window into your home to make sure that if there was anybody in there that they were okay, okay? This report came from your mom, which is obviously very concerned, and that was started by the daycare provider.
By the way, she has a key to my house.
Okay.
The daycare provider has a key, so I don't know why they had to break the window when she started it and she had a key.
Okay. Well, that was not brought to our attention, obviously. Okay. Well, I mean, if you haven't done nothing wrong, Josh, if you didn't do anything wrong, there's nothing to be scared about. Right?
Well, I'm scared about the possibilities.
Okay.
Of what's happened.
Well, I'm worried about possibilities of what happened too, because I have no idea where she's at, and you don't either. And that's why I need your help.
All right. Yeah, go and ask the questions.
Let's start off on how long you've lived here. How long you guys have lived in Utah?
About 5 years.
When did you move?
Let's see, it was 2009. Might be 6 years now. Seems like it was.
So you say you went to her work, right?
Yeah.
To pick her up. What time did you get there?
Probably 5:35.
5:35.
Something like that.
What time do you usually pick her up from work?
5:35.
Okay. What time does she get off of work?
5:30.
Okay.
It takes her 5 minutes to get down.
Okay.
5 to 10. It depends on the day.
Right. So you're saying you're there definitely at 5:30.
I mean, yeah.
Okay. And she doesn't come out. How long do you wait till?
I left with that phone call.
Okay.
After that, they said she didn't go to work, and so I was like, well, okay, there's no point sitting here then.
Didn't Jennifer ask you if you went to work? When she first called, didn't she say to you, didn't you go to work today?
I don't remember any details on that because I was just focused on the one fact, trying to figure out why Susan didn't go to work.
Mm-hmm.
He kept insisting that he was surprised about Susan not showing up for work. It was not like her to miss work.
Maybe it was 3, late December. November or December of 03, I think we came.
Okay. December of 2003?
It seems like it. Here? I mean, that's the best I can recall.
Okay. Where did you guys move from?
Washington State.
Okay. Where in Washington State?
We lived in Yakima. We're managing a retirement facility.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Actually, We met at called Institute of Religion.
That's where you guys actually met?
Well,
Institute
technically
of Religion?
no, but that's when we met for real.
Okay. Is that in Washington State?
In Tacoma.
How old were you? When was that? What year?
2000.
Okay. All right. When did you guys get married? What year did you get married?
2000. It's probably a blank. I think it was 2000, but either that or it was 2001.
Okay.
And it was in April.
April?
Yeah, actually April 6th.
Okay. All right. So you guys met in the Institute of Religion in Washington State. You guys got married in April of 2000 or 2001, right? And you guys lived in Yakima.
Actually, sorry, I was going backwards. We lived in Tacoma in an apartment, and then we lived in, I think, Spanaway in an apartment. I think we moved to Yakima a time or two. We stayed with family, both her parents and my dad. Then we moved to Yakima because we're managing a retirement facility. Then we moved to Olympia, managing another retirement facility. And then we moved to, I think that's when we moved to Utah.
Okay. And you say that was, what was that, 2003, right? December of 2003?
I think so.
Okay.
It seems like 2004, March-ish, we bought our house.
Which house did you buy?
Well, that's the house.
Okay, so when you moved here to Utah, you bought the house in Sarah Circle?
Yeah, and we stayed with family until then.
Which family did you stay with?
My sister.
Jennifer? Okay. Was Jennifer living with your mom at the time, or was she living away from your mom? Or do they live together?
No, they lived together, but they didn't at the time.
Oh, okay. All right.
So she only moved here, my mom, maybe last year.
Oh, okay. All right. So what brought you guys to Utah?
Just, oh, sorry, what did you say?
What brought you guys to Utah?
Just getting away. You know, if it's her day off, she sleeps in. And if it's her day to work, she gets up and goes to work.
Right.
I just can't even think of what is going on.
Well, I need your help, Josh. I mean, you know her better than we do. She's left your boys. She's left you.
No, I don't think she did.
You don't think so?
No.
He wanted the officers to start at her workplace. Josh Powell's brother, Michael Powell, worked with military intelligence. It seemed as though he was schooled on what to say and what not to say. After all the inconsistencies and investigations, the one thing Josh hadn't foreseen was his children. He assumed they would be too young to remember, but Charlie kept telling the investigators how his mom had been on the trip.
Who were you camping with?
My dad and my mom and my little brother.
Dad, your mom, and your brother?
Yeah.
Did you sleep over there? Yeah? Tell me what you did with your dad while you were camping. Anything fun?
Yeah. While I was camping, I saw some flowers that didn't look pretty.
They didn't?
Yeah.
You saw some flowers that didn't look pretty?
Yeah.
When the interviewer asked about his mother's whereabouts after the trip, little Charlie told her something alarming. He did not mean 8 a.m.
When did Mommy go to work?
At 8 o'clock.
Did Mommy go to work at night or did Mommy go to work in the morning?
My mommy went to work at 8 o'clock.
At 8 o'clock?
Yeah.
Is that at night when it's dark outside?
Yeah.
Or is it in the morning time when you just wake up?
It's at night.
Why would he think his mother went to work at night, unless she was missing at night, and that's what his father told him? The interviewer asked Charlie about his trip and questioned him about what he did. This was an important question. Charlie didn't have to think much longer. He promptly answered.
And then what did you do when you were done camping?
Go home.
You went home?
We went home in an airplane.
Oh. What about when you went last night camping? When you were all done, what did you do?
We went to a beach when we was all done last night.
Went to a beach? Okay.
This was important information. The woman interviewing him is noting it down. Why would they go to a beach in the middle of a camping trip? It is possible that the toddler was talking about the pond next to her workplace. It would certainly look like a beach to a 4-year-old. But that's not all. Charlie had some revelations about that night.
How did you guys get to where you were camping?
We got in the airplane, and the airplane went to Dinosaur National Park.
Oh. You went to an airplane yesterday?
Yeah, and our airplane bring us to Dinosaur National Park.
Okay. And then what did you do when you were done camping?
Go home.
You went home?
We went home in an airplane.
It is highly likely that something terrible happened here. Maybe Josh went to Susan's workplace, disposed of something in the pond, and drove back. That would explain the airplanes Charlie saw and the beach. The next thing she asked would completely contradict Josh's story. His mommy did not come home with him.
Okay, so Charlie, when you guys came home from camping, who came home with you?
My dad.
And
my mom stayed at Dinosaur National Park.
Your mom stayed there?
Yeah.
How do you know your mom stayed?
Because I was coming.
Charlie tried to explain exactly where he left his mother.
So your mom stayed at the park.
Yeah.
Where did she stay at the park? Do you know where?
She stayed at Dinosaur National Park.
Do you know where at the park? No?
No. My mom stayed where a crystals are.
Where what are?
Where crystals are.
The crystals?
Yeah.
Crystals?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Crystals?
Yeah.
Your mom stayed where the crystals are?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Charlie even drew a picture of his camping trip and said Mommy was in the trunk. They had taken flowers and crystals with them, and Mommy stayed with the crystals because that's where things grow.
All right, Charlie. You told me that you went camping with your mom, your dad, and your little brother to Dinosaur National Park, right?
Yeah.
And you said that Mommy stayed at the park, right?
Yeah.
How come Mommy stayed?
Because it had so much pretty on where it's because it has so much pretty where a crystal grows.
It had so many pretty things where the crystals grow?
Yeah.
So why did Mommy stay?
Because there was flowers and crystals that was colorful.
That was what?
That was colorful.
Colorful?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Josh moved back to his home in Salt Lake City in 2010, which made him even more suspicious. He launched a website that caused a rift between the families, where he was mostly defending himself and accusing his wife of having an affair with a recently disappeared man called Stephen Kocher. 3 days before Susan disappeared, Josh and his brother Michael went off the grid. Until December 12th, Josh checked his voicemail only twice on the same day and at the same time. He returned from the desert with his boys, a drastic deviation from his usual phone activity. During this period of silence, Susan went missing, and Josh vanished in a rental car for 2 days, logging 800 miles on the odometer. It was later discovered that he had driven to meet Michael somewhere between Utah and Washington. Josh had some help. His brother had somehow bailed him out. Michael Powell's car, a 1997 Ford Taurus, became a focal point for police investigations. On December 23, 2009, 2 days before Christmas and about 2 weeks after Susan disappeared, Michael sold the car to a salvage lot in Pendleton, Oregon, for about $100. The car had broken down in Baker City, and despite the availability of closer wrecking yards and repair shops, Michael and his sister, Alina, insisted on having it towed nearly 100 miles away to Pendleton. Police only learned about the Taurus 21 months later. Detectives retrieved the car from the salvage yard in September 2011 using a flatbed trailer. Although missing a few pieces, the car was largely intact. Cadaver dogs searching the vehicle indicated the presence of human decomposition in the back seat and trunk. However, samples sent to the Utah State Crime Lab, including a hair found on the carpet, did not match Susan's DNA. Detectives tried to question Michael, flying to Minnesota to surprise him. Investigations found that Josh had rented a car and drove 800 miles on December 8th. DNA analysis confirmed it was Susan's blood, but without a body, he could not be convicted of her homicide or disappearance. In November 2011, Michael visited the website of Apollo Mapping. He received a call from Apollo Mapping expressing his interest in their services.
Hello?
Hi, is this Michael?
Yeah.
Hey Michael, this is Katie calling from Apollo Mapping. You had contacted me a couple of months ago about some satellite imagery.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got something just about a month or two ago from June of the area you were interested in.
Pendleton, Oregon?
Yeah, of Pendleton. Do you have like lat long coordinate?
I couldn't give you lat long, but I could give you the name of the establishment. I don't know if you go that way.
Yeah, I can do that too.
Should be like Lindell's Junkyard, Lindell's. Oh, Lindell's Autosat was the salvage of it.
The next day, Michael called back, insisting on purchasing a new satellite image. Despite the company's usual practice of dissuading customers from seeking imagery for purposes like locating cars, Michael was persistent and insisted he wanted whatever imagery they had available. Michael's insistence on obtaining satellite pictures, coupled with his previous actions of towing his car 100 miles away to dispose of it, was suspicious. The way he denies it, there is a look of worry in his eyes. He's trying to deflect by claiming he doesn't know, but there is something there. Michael Powell is worried. Josh, on the other hand, was trying to clear his name. He tried very hard to make it appear that Susan had gone missing voluntarily, that she was responsible for her disappearance. At the time, Stephen Powell hadn't gone to jail yet. He went on air to tarnish Susan's name, claiming she was involved with him. Because of the strange circumstances surrounding Susan's disappearance, in 2011, the custody of his children was given to their maternal grandparents. Once safe, the children started giving more details of the incident. They told their grandparents that their mother was in a mine. A gas station employee claimed to have spotted the family in a minivan. They didn't seem to be going camping. They bought licorice, tape, and matches, and the man told his son, "Let me buy this, then we'll go camping." The employee found it odd for a family to go camping in the middle of a storm, that too at night. His statement was also strange. Another man claimed he had spotted Josh the day Susan went missing. It was around 2 p.m. at Deuce's bar.
The story broke, I says, God, where do I know that guy? And then I traced it back, oh, that's that guy in the bar, because nobody forgets a jerk.
Sherman, a regular at the South Salt Lake Gentlemen's Club Deuce's Wild, told KSL at the time he had sat next to Josh at the bar on the day she was reported missing.
On the day in question, Josh arrived at a club at 2 p.m. and left about 2.5 hours later. His phone records indicated he was near his West Valley home at 3 p.m. and then south at the point of the mountain by 3:30 p.m. This timeline suggests that unless someone else had his phone, Josh could not have been at Deuces Wild at the times mentioned. People were posting missing persons posters all over Josh and his father's homes, and that made him furious. For a man who is heartbroken and looking for his wife, this is an odd thing to say, especially on camera. Why is he so defensive? February 5th, 2012, the fateful day when the boys were scheduled for a supervised visit with their father, they were very happy. Their caseworker, Cassie Griffin Hall, had grown to love them. Cassie had grown to trust Josh because he was a doting father. She explained how they jumped out of her car and ran home, where Josh slammed the door shut before she could step up. Cassie immediately knew something was wrong. Josh had already made his decision. Just minutes before, his sister had dialed 911 to report his last voicemail to her. She called 911 at the same time as Cassie. She could hear Josh saying, "Charlie, I've got a big surprise for you," with Braden crying in the background and a strong smell of gasoline. Cassie was trying to convince the 911 dispatcher of the urgency of the situation. While she was giving details to get help, there was a massive explosion which knocked her on her feet. The house was on fire. Help arrived exactly 22 minutes later. 22 minutes too late. This was not in an instant of insanity. Josh had specially purchased gasoline for this purpose. An autopsy would reveal that he had attacked one of the boys with a hatchet before setting the house on fire. They were talking and recalling what happened that night, and Josh couldn't bear that. It's tragic because it's true. Josh made sure of it. When little Charlie said, "Mommy, I'm with you," and his mother replied, "You are with me," it's almost haunting. Josh left an email to his attorney and the company he worked for with a single line that read, "I'm sorry." Washington State granted Susan's parents, Chuck and Judy Cox, $98 million in negligence leading up to the homicide of their grandchildren, but it would never make up for the loss of their family, their daughter and grandchildren. The body of Susan Cox Powell has not been recovered to this day, but it's clear who was responsible for her disappearance or demise. Stephen Powell passed away in prison at the age of 67. He was hospitalized for heart complications that proved to be fatal. The story of Susan Powell is important to remember when discussing domestic violence issues, because no tragedy is greater than the one that could have been avoided if Susan had managed to walk out of her marriage. What do you guys think? Should Josh have been given mental health intervention, or should Susan have escaped their marriage? What would have worked? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, please click like and subscribe. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware of your surroundings.